AITA for rejecting my ex-fiancée 8 months after calling off our wedding over a coworker. My name is Mason, 29 years old. I work in aviation safety certification and flight software compliance. Basically, I make sure the systems that keep planes from falling out of the sky meet federal standards. I spend half my life in hangars, airport offices, and regional terminals across the Midwest. The other half, I spend on I-70 or sitting at MCI Airport waiting for delayed flights. It pays well, and I am good at what I do. I had been engaged to Vanessa for 14 months, and we had been together for almost 3 years in total. She is originally from Ukraine, came to the U.S. for graduate school, and stayed. I met her at a friend's birthday party at a rooftop bar in the Crossroads district. She was stunning, the kind that makes you lose your train of thought. Striking dark hair, dressed like she stepped out of a European fashion magazine. Way out of my league, at least that is what I thought at the time, but she seemed genuinely interested. We talked for 2 hours about everything and nothing. Her transition to American life, my weird job that nobody understands, the best places to eat barbecue in Kansas City. She had this way of giving you her full attention like nothing else in the room existed. I was hooked immediately. The first year was incredible. She introduced me to her world of elaborate dinner parties with her friends where everyone dressed up and the food was always homemade and impressive. I took her to see Chiefs games and to slightly run-down barbecue joints that she pretended to like more than she actually did. We balanced each other out. Looking back, I was probably more accommodating than I should have been. She had strong opinions on everything, where we ate, what we did on weekends, how I dressed when we went out. I went along with it most of the time because it was easier and honestly, I wanted her to be happy. My best friend Brandon called me a pushover more than once. I told him he was just jealous. He told me I was blind, but I was not completely spineless. When she wanted me to miss my cousin's wedding because her coworker was hosting an art show the same night, I said no. When she suggested I should find a job with less travel because she did not like being alone, I told her my career was non-negotiable. I had a backbone. I just did not use it as often as I should have. The proposal happened 14 months ago at her favorite restaurant on the plaza. I had planned it for weeks, coordinated with the staff, the ring hidden in my pocket the whole dinner. The ring itself belonged to my grandmother, a vintage piece with a center diamond and 2 small sapphires. I had it reset in a more modern setting because Vanessa had specific tastes and the old setting would not have been enough. When I got down on one knee, she got tears in her eyes, said yes before I even finished my question, and posted it on Instagram within 30 seconds. The photo got 400 likes in an hour. She changed her bio to future Mrs. before we even paid the bill. Her parents came down from Chicago the following month to celebrate. Her mother brought traditional Ukrainian pastries that she had spent days making. Her father brought his handshake and his expectations. Her father, Anthony, was that kind of old-school Eastern European man who shakes your hand like he is testing your strength. Her mother, Maria, was warmer, but clearly had high standards for whoever was going to marry her daughter. I passed inspection. Apparently, Anthony told me in private that he was happy Vanessa had found someone stable, someone who would take care of her. I took that responsibility very seriously, maybe too seriously. We found an apartment together in a nice building near the plaza. We split the rent 60-40 since I made more. We started planning the wedding for early June. Her parents offered to pitch in for the cost, which was generous given that the budget kept growing. Vanessa had a vision. The venue had to be perfect. The flowers had to be specific. The guest list kept growing because she could not exclude anyone from her social circle. By the time everything was finalized, we were at 140 guests, a venue in Parkville overlooking the river, a 6-piece band, and a photographer who had shot weddings for Kansas City Chiefs players. The total budget had climbed to $62,000. Her parents contributed $20,000. I paid the rest. All the vendors had received their deposits. The save-the-dates were pinned on fridges in 3 states. I played along. I signed checks, nodded at fabric samples, pretended to care about the difference between ivory and eggshell. Because that is what you do when you are building a life with someone. You compromise. What I did not realize was that I was the only one compromising. 2 months before the wedding, everything was locked in. Venue booked, caterer confirmed, photographer scheduled, invitation sent, her dress and alterations, my suit ordered. The countdown had started, and then came that Tuesday. I had just returned from a 3-day trip to Wichita where I was certifying avionics upgrades for a regional airline. Long days in a stifling hangar, reviewing documents, running tests, managing mechanics who thought compliance was optional. I was tired, but it was a good tired, the kind that comes when you do your job well. Vanessa was sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in. She had an expression I had never seen on her before. Serious, but also almost rehearsed. She told me she needed to talk to me about something important about us, about the wedding. I sat across from her, still in my work clothes, thinking she was going to talk about the seating chart or an issue with a vendor. I have been thinking a lot lately, she said, about commitment, about being sure. I think we should take a break before the wedding. I asked her what kind of break she meant. That is when she told me about Dylan, a guy from her office, a project manager she worked closely with on a big campaign. She said they had developed a connection, an emotional connection, and that before walking down the aisle, she needed to explore her feelings just to be entirely sure she was making the right choice. I just sat there taking it in. My fiancé, 2 months before our wedding, was asking me for permission to pursue another man, a coworker, someone she saw every day while I traveled for work. I asked her how long this had been going on. She got defensive, said nothing had happened, that they were just talking, getting closer. She said he understood her differently, that he was there when I was always away. The accusation hit exactly where she intended, as if I was responsible for her developing feelings for another man because my job required travel. And what am I supposed to do during this exploration period? Wait for you? Give you space to figure out your feelings? She said it as if she were asking me to pick up milk on the way home. If you really love me, you will want me to be sure. You will want me to show up to the wedding without any doubts. She had clearly rehearsed all this. Her arguments were ready. She had surely gotten advice from a friend who told her it was a reasonable request. But that is where she messed up. She thought I would react like I always did, adapt, compromise, put her needs first. Instead of that, I stood up. No break, no exploration, no waiting around while you decide if another guy is a better option. We either get married or we do not. And if you need to explore feelings for a coworker, then it will be a no. Her face changed instantly. The calm she displayed cracked. I am not asking you to break up, Mason. I am asking for space, time to think. You do not understand the difference. I understand perfectly. You want to keep me on the back burner while you test drive someone else. That is not space. That is treating me like a backup plan. I looked her dead in the eyes. And I am not a backup plan. She got emotional. She said I was being unreasonable, that she was trying to be honest with me instead of hiding anything behind my back, that most men would appreciate this transparency. I replied that most men would have left 30 seconds into this conversation. I just took longer to catch on. Then I asked her to give me the ring back. Her attitude changed immediately. The tears disappeared. Her look turned cold. Are you serious right now? I have never been more serious in my life. It was a gift, Mason. You cannot just take it back because you are upset. The engagement is off. So the ring comes back. That is how it works. We kept arguing for 10 minutes. She tried guilt, then anger, then bargaining. I did not budge. Finally, she took off the ring and threw it toward me. I caught it in midair. She grabbed her bag and headed for the door. Before leaving, she turned around, her eyes full of rage. You will never find anyone as beautiful as me. No one will love you the way I loved you. You are making the biggest mistake of your life. Then she slammed the door so hard the picture frames on the wall shook. I stood there in our apartment holding my grandmother's ring, and oddly enough, I was not sad. I was relieved, as if I had been waiting for everything to fall apart for months, and it finally just did. Then I texted Brandon. His reply came in less than a minute. Finally, man, took you long enough to wake up. Want some wings? I am on my way. Brandon arrived 45 minutes later with a bag of chicken wings from our usual spot, a notebook, and a smile like Christmas came early. He had never liked Vanessa. He said she treated me like an accessory, that she was more interested in having a fiancé than in me as a person. I always defended her. I told him he did not understand her, that he was being unfair. He knew he understood her better than I did. He put the wings on the table, opened an energy drink, and pointed at me. Tell me everything from start to finish. Do not leave anything out. I told him about the whole conversation. He listened without interrupting, which, coming from him, was rare. When I finished, He just shook his head. Honestly, I am surprised it took this long. A woman who posts a picture of her engagement ring before even calling her mom is not in love with you, man. She is in love with the announcement. He was not wrong. Then he pulled out his notebook and took the cap off his pen. We are going to treat this like a project. Deliverables, deadlines, dependencies. Are you serious right now? Dead serious. Most guys mess up their breakups because they react emotionally instead of thinking strategically. We are going to make sure you do not ruin everything. Wait, what? Shut up and listen, Mason. In 20 minutes, he had mapped out everything I had to handle. The apartment lease, the wedding vendors, the joint accounts, the shared subscriptions, controlling the narrative. He even set priorities. High impact and low effort stuff first, the subscriptions. I had not even thought about that. Vanessa and I had practically bundled everything over the last 2 years. Streaming services, grocery delivery, cloud storage, music, fitness apps, meal planning services, all under my accounts with my payment info. She used them constantly. Her entire digital life ran on an infrastructure that I funded. Brandon circled this part of his list 3 times. This right here is the petty satisfaction column. Not necessary for the breakup, but important for morale. He smiled. My morale specifically. I told him I did not want to be petty. It is not petty, it is practical. Why would you pay for services for someone who just asked you to explore a relationship with another guy? He leaned back. Plus, watching her get logged out of everything one by one is going to be something. Again, he was not wrong. But first, I had a more important message to send. I knew Vanessa. I knew how she operated. As soon as she calmed down, she would start spinning her narrative, calling her friends, texting her family, framing it as if I had overreacted to a reasonable request. By the next morning, I would be the bad guy who abandoned her over a simple conversation about her feelings. I had to get ahead of it. I drafted a single message, short, factual, emotionless. Vanessa asked me tonight to take a break from our engagement to explore her feelings for a coworker named Dylan. I refused and ended the engagement. The wedding is canceled. I wanted you to hear it directly from me. I sent it to her parents, her sister, and 3 of our mutual friends who I knew would pass the information along. Then I turned off my phone and finished my wings. Brandon called it locking down the narrative. He said that in any breakup, whoever controls the story controls the outcome, and I had just made it impossible for her to rewrite what happened without looking like she was lying to her own family, who had already received that message. The next morning, the message had done its job. Her sister had already screenshot it and shared it in their family group. 2 of our mutual friends had forwarded it to their entire circles. One of the guys I sent it to worked with Vanessa at her agency, and by noon her whole office knew. Not through rumors, but through the facts sent by me before she could twist anything. She still tried, claiming I had overreacted after a simple pre-wedding stress-related conversation. But when people asked questions, her story fell apart. The details did not add up, the timeline made no sense, and everyone had already seen my message with Dylan's name in it. Next, I called Anthony, her dad. I had always respected him, and I figured he deserved a real conversation, not just a text. He picked up on the second ring, his voice heavy. He had clearly read the message already. Is it true, Mason? What you wrote, every word, Anthony. He stayed silent for a moment. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. Then he asked me what I needed regarding the wedding expenses. I told him I would handle canceling everything, and we could split the non-refundable deposits. He had pitched in about $20,000 for the venue, the caterer, and other vendors. I offered to take the hit myself since I was the one calling everything off. No, his voice was firm. My daughter created this mess. I will not let you pay for her mistakes. In my family, when someone breaks their word, they are the ones who face the consequences, not the one who was wronged. Then he added something that stuck with me. He said he raised Vanessa to know better, that he tried to teach her that trust is built and not thrown away for a cheap thrill. He said he did not know where he failed, but he was ashamed of what she had done. I told him it was not his fault. People make their own choices. That is generous of you, more than she deserves. I could hear Maria in the background, upset, asking what was going on. Anthony told her they would talk after he finished with me. Before hanging up, his voice softened. I hoped you would be part of this family, Mason. You are a good man. My daughter is a fool. That hit me harder than I expected. Coming from an old school, hard to impress Eastern European dad, it meant a lot. Wednesday morning, I started making phone calls. The venue coordinator was sympathetic but strict about the cancellation policy. We were going to lose about $8,000 between their deposit and the caterers. Anthony insisted on handling that call himself. The photographer refunded most of the deposit because she managed to rebook the date quickly. She told me she was sorry it did not work out, but that she had seen enough cases to know that canceling now prevented a lot more pain later. The florist kept $1,500. The DJ and the band were the biggest loss after the venue. $3,000 non-refundable, no exceptions. I called the rental company for the tables and chairs, the bakery, the calligrapher who did the invitations, the hotel, where we had blocked rooms for out-of-town guests. By noon, I had made 14 calls and watched about $13,000 go up in smoke for a wedding that was never going to happen. Wednesday afternoon, the wedding website was gone. I had set it up with my email address, so I just deleted it. The registry vanished along with all those carefully curated kitchen gadgets and elegant linens. Gone. The visual proof of our future wedding erased. Brandon had specifically advised me to do that. He said that for someone like Vanessa, anything public would hurt more than the rest. Her whole identity relied on the image she projected to others. Stripping away the facade was stripping away her power. He was not wrong. She started blowing up my phone around 4 p.m. that afternoon. Texts, calls, voicemails. Apparently, she had tried to show the registry to a friend and found nothing. Then she checked the wedding website. Nothing. Next, she called the venue and found out her own father had canceled everything. Her text got increasingly panicked, then angry, then threatening. She said I was trying to humiliate her, that I went behind her back to contact her own family, that I was vindictive and cruel. I did not reply to a single message. That evening, I logged into all our shared accounts, the streaming services. First, I changed the password on the main one, deleted her profile, and moved on to the next platform. Same process. Cloud storage, grocery delivery, music, fitness app, meal planning service, the language learning app she used exactly twice. Everything. Brandon sat across from me, watching the scene and smiling. He had brought snacks. It looked like the Michael Jackson popcorn gif. This is better than any show we could have watched on these platforms, he said, eating chips. I know it was petty, but Brandon was right. Why should I keep paying for someone who just cast me aside while looking for something better? The texts that followed were quite something. Apparently, she was in the middle of watching a show when everything logged out. Then she tried to order groceries, payment declined. Then she could no longer access her playlist she had been building for months. Then she tried opening the cloud storage where she kept all her work files and got a password error. The messages went through several phases. First confusion, then realization, then anger. She even left me furious voicemails. Her accent was coming back. You canceled everything, everything. I am in the middle of an episode, Mason. You are so petty, so immature. I cannot believe I wasted 3 years with you. You think this hurts me? This is nothing. You are nothing. Brandon was dying of laughter listening to it. Man, she is having a full existential crisis. She tried signing up for the services herself, but apparently some premium features I was paying for were not available on the basic plans. She sent another string of texts asking if I was really going to force her to pay full price for services she had been using for free for 2 years. I did not reply to any of it. That is the best part, Brandon said. The silence. Nothing will drive her crazier than the fact that you are not engaging at all. I slept better that night than I had in months. The apartment situation was the big hurdle. We were both on the lease which ran until October. Breaking it early meant penalties, and I did not want to spend months cohabiting in a tense atmosphere while she figured out her next move. Plus, there was the risk she might try to make my life difficult. Apparently, after the subscriptions were cut off, she decided to retaliate. She called my company's HR department, claiming I was harassing her, saying she felt unsafe, demanding they take action. Except there was nothing to act on. I had not contacted her directly since the meeting about the lease. All her messages had gone unanswered. The message I sent to her family was factual, with no threats or insults. HR called me. I sent them screenshots showing she was the one sending aggressive texts, and they closed the case in about 20 minutes. Next, she tried calling building management to get me removed from the lease, citing a hostile living environment. Except I did not live there anymore. I was crashing at Brandon's temporarily while planning my move, and the building manager, who had seen enough breakups to write a book, had no desire to get involved in our mess beyond the paperwork. She also tried to get ahead of me with the wedding vendors. She called the venue pretending to handle the cancellation herself, trying to reroute the refunds to her account. The venue coordinator called me to verify. When I explained the situation, she flagged Vanessa's number in their system. The caterer got a similar call. Same result. Her attempts to get revenge were not working because there was nothing to attack. I was not reacting, I was not attacking, and she did not know how to fight against that. Thursday morning, I went to the leasing office to explain the situation. The manager was understanding. She said if one of us wanted to take over the lease alone, it was possible. Or if we both wanted to leave, there would be a 2-month penalty. I asked her what my options were. She explained that if I found a replacement and Vanessa agreed to sign the paperwork, I could leave in 30 days. I made a few calls. A coworker of mine was actually looking for a place closer to downtown. I told him about the apartment, sent pictures, and gave him the rent amount. By that afternoon, he was interested. He could move in on the 15th if everything checked out. All I had to do was get Vanessa's approval. I sent her a simple proposal. I was moving out. She keeps the apartment until the end of the lease, and I pay my half of the penalty. A clean break, no drama. She called me instead of texting back. Her voice sounded different, calmer. I do not want you to go, Mason. I want us to really talk about this. Silence. I moved too fast. Dylan is not what I thought. I made a mistake bringing it up the way I did. It does not change anything. You can accept the lease terms, or we stay stuck in an awkward situation until October. She paused, then asked where I planned to go. Austin. My company has had an open position down there for months. Regional manager for the Southwest. More money, better weather, fresh start. I already talked to my boss. The job is mine if I want it. Silence on the other end. I think she expected me to stay. Hearing that I was leaving the state entirely was not part of her plan. She agreed to sign the papers the next day. Friday morning, we met at the leasing office. She looked like she had been crying, but I could tell some of it was put on. We signed the papers across from each other, avoiding almost all eye contact. Before leaving, she tried one last time. Can we slow down? Maybe you are blowing this out of proportion. She looked at me with that gaze that used to work on me. I did not do anything with Dylan. It was just feelings I could get over. The fact that you could even ask what you asked tells me everything I need to know. I looked right in her eyes. Someone who wants to marry me does not need to explore other options. That is not how this works. She opened her mouth to reply, then stopped. Something in my tone made her realize there were no more cards to play. She walked away without a word. Saturday morning, Brandon came over with his truck. We spent 8 hours packing and loading everything I was taking. The apartment was already mostly furnished, so there was not much to argue over. My clothes, my gaming setup, my personal belongings, some kitchen gear I bought myself. Everything else stayed. Saturday evening, my half of the apartment was empty. I left the keys on the counter with a note that just said good luck. Brandon thought that was too nice. He wanted me to leave a printed screenshot of her request for a break, but I was done. I did not need to have the last word. I just needed to leave. All right. Hold on a second. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The ability to detach so completely, so efficiently, so quickly, it is not always emotional strength. Sometimes, it is an emotional shutdown. Sometimes, the people who seem the most composed after a devastating loss are the ones who have not actually processed anything at all. They are just in motion. Checking off tasks, booking the next flight, finding the next apartment. Mason did not shed a single tear through this whole ordeal. Not when she threw the ring. Not when he made 14 calls to vendors and watched $13,000 vanish. Not while packing his bags. Not on that highway. And I am not saying he should have chased her. Absolutely not. I am simply saying somewhere between Kansas City and Austin, this man deserved to break down for at least 20 minutes. Grief that has nowhere to go does not disappear. It just waits. Now, back to the original poster. Sunday morning, I was on I-35 South heading toward Austin. 12 hours of empty highway and aviation history podcasts. I drove through Oklahoma City around lunchtime. I made a gas stop in Dallas around dinner. Texas license plates started taking over. I crossed the Austin city limits a little after 9 p.m. The skyline was glowing in the dark. New city, new job, new life. I did not look back once. The first few weeks in Austin were a whirlwind of logistics, finding an apartment, setting up utilities, getting my bearings at the office. My territory covered Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and parts of Colorado. Lots of regional airlines, lots of small airports, lots of flight hours. The Austin office was different, more laid back, more collaborative, less corporate politics than I was used to. My boss, a former Air Force guy named Greg, cared more about results than appearances. He did not care how many hours I put in or how many meetings I attended. He wanted to know if operators were getting their certifications and if clients were happy. The first month, I spent more time in the air and in hangars than at my desk. El Paso 1 week for a full documentation review. Phoenix the next week for software certification testing. Then driving to small rural airports where charter companies needed compliance consulting after their previous specialist made mistakes. Every successful certification was a win. Every new client was proof that I made the right decision. The job had not changed, but my mindset had. I was not just punching the clock anymore. I was genuinely invested. The work kept me busy, exactly what I needed. Brandon kept me updated on the situation in Kansas City. He stayed in touch with some of our mutual friends who were thrilled to share the news, and honestly, it was chaos. Vanessa tried to control the narrative for about 48 hours before giving up. My text to her family made that impossible. Her own dad was telling people she asked for a break to pursue a coworker. Her own sister was saying she could not believe she ruined everything. The story was out, and it did not make her look good. Apparently, she got even closer to Dylan after I left. She figured since she lost me for him, she might as well see what it was really worth. They officially started dating about 2 weeks after I moved. Brandon gave me updates like a sports commentator. First week, inseparable, eating lunch together every day at the office. Third week, she was posting couple pictures with captions like "I found the right one." Fifth week, she introduced him to her friends as her boyfriend. It was all moving very fast, which made sense. She had to prove that all of this was worth it. Then week 8 rolled around. Dylan had a fiancée, not an ex-fiancée, a current fiancée. A woman in Chicago he had been engaged to for over a year. Vanessa had been misled the whole time. The emotional connection, the late nights at the office, that feeling of being understood differently. It was all just part of a situation where he was hiding his real relationship. She found out when the fiancé discovered her Instagram. Apparently, a photo Vanessa posted contained location data that did not match Dylan's supposed business trip. The fiancé did some digging, found Vanessa's profile, connected the dots, and uncovered the whole situation her future husband was hiding. The confrontation happened publicly, comments under Vanessa's photos, messages sent to mutual friends, screenshots shared across multiple platforms. The fiancé had proof, messages between Dylan and Vanessa, a restaurant reservation under a fake name, and other financial details. She posted everything. Vanessa's entire social circle found out at the same time that she left her fiancé for a guy who had been misleading her from the start. And to make matters worse, Dylan did not even defend her. When confronted, he threw her entirely under the bus, claiming she pursued him relentlessly, that he was just too nice to shut it down, that she misinterpreted a simple professional friendship. He made her look desperate and delusional. His fiancée did not entirely believe him, but she wanted to. They started couples counseling and went back to posting pictures together a month later. He kept his relationship, his reputation, his comfortable life. Vanessa got nothing but public humiliation and a brutal lesson. Brandon called me the night it all came out, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. He said he had never seen karma work that fast. I was not really happy, more like satisfied. Like the decision I made was validated. Vanessa vanished from social media after that. No more posts, no more stories, no more carefully filtered photos of her perfect life. The image she spent years building was shattered. Her agency let her go 3 weeks later. Officially, it was restructuring. Unofficially, a coworker told Brandon that clients were asking to work with other designers. Nobody wanted to associate their brand with someone whose personal life had just blown up on Instagram. In the creative industry, reputation is everything. Hers was destroyed. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I hit my sales targets for the first quarter. I got positive feedback from 3 different clients on my certification work. I started building a routine in Austin, gym in the morning, work during the day, exploring the city on weekends. I found a great apartment near downtown overlooking Lady Bird Lake. I started hiking on weekends, joined a recreational volleyball league through work, and made friends at the office, other transplants from out of town like me. For the first time in years, I felt like I was actually living my own life without constantly adapting to what someone else wanted. I was just living my life. Honestly, it felt amazing. 6 months after moving to Austin, I was doing better than I had in years. More stable, more confident, more myself. The job turned out to be even better than expected. My territory was expanding, my numbers were strong, and my boss was already talking about a promotion to director within the year. I started dating again around the 4th month. Nothing serious, just easing back in. Then I met Amanda. She was a sales engineer for another aerospace company. We met at a conference in Dallas. We ended up at the same table for a group dinner and spent the whole meal talking to each other, ignoring everyone else. She was smart, blunt, with a dry sense of humor that constantly caught me off guard. Our first real date was at a taco joint she swore had the best al pastor in Texas. She was right. We talked for 3 hours, and everything felt easy in a way my relationship with Vanessa never did. She knew my story, at least the abridged version. She did not push for details. She just said I handled it right and changed the subject. With Amanda, I just existed. She liked me for who I actually was. When I came home exhausted and just wanted to order a pizza and mindlessly watch something, she was cool with it. When I wanted to spend a Saturday hiking instead of going to a trendy brunch, she laced up her boots. Brandon met her when he came down to visit. His verdict, she is a keeper. He said she was the first of my girlfriends who seemed genuinely interested in me and not just the idea of having a boyfriend. Through the grapevine in Kansas, I still heard bits and pieces of Vanessa's life. She moved back to Kansas City after spending some time at her parents' place in Chicago. Her design career stalled because the whole story had played out in front of her professional network. Anthony and I stayed vaguely in touch. He would occasionally text me, sending Chiefs updates or asking how work was going. He never directly mentioned his daughter, but the undertone was always there. 8 months after the breakup, something happened. My company sent me back to Kansas for a week. A huge client meeting, a regulatory review, the kind of assignment that required my expertise. I had to stay for 5 days. I was not worried about running into Vanessa. I knew she had moved back to Kansas City, but it is a big city. The chances of bumping into her randomly were almost zero. The work went well. 4 days of meetings, inspections, and document reviews. By Thursday night, I was done and had a free evening before my flight out on Friday afternoon. Brandon insisted we meet up. He suggested a new restaurant in the Crossroads district that opened after I left. Heard the food is great there. I agreed. The restaurant was packed when I arrived. Brandon had already grabbed a table in the back and ordered an appetizer. We spent the first hour chatting normally. His job, mine, Amanda, his latest dating disasters, the usual stuff. Then I saw her. Vanessa was on the other side of the restaurant with 2 women I did not know. She was dressed up, makeup done, looking polished, but something was off. The confidence she used to carry felt forced. She was laughing a little too loud, looking around to see who was noticing her. I watched her for about 30 seconds. She had lost weight. Her outfit looked cheaper than usual. Her new job probably did not pay as much as her old one. She had not seen me yet. I hesitated about leaving, but Brandon had already noticed what caught my attention. When he saw her, a huge grin spread across his face. "Do not even think about leaving," he whispered. "This is perfect. The universe is giving you a gift. Accept it." I told him I did not want drama. He replied that it was not about drama. She needed to see me happy, moving on. That would do more than any words could. So I stayed. I kept chatting, eating. 20 minutes later, she noticed me. Her fake smile faltered for a second before returning. She checked her lipstick using her phone camera and then walked over to our table. Brandon leaned back in his chair. "Do not give her anything," he said quietly. She stopped in front of us. "Mason, I did not know you were in town. Just for work. Flying back tomorrow." I did not stand up. I did not offer her a seat. She stood there for a moment, clearly expecting more. When I did not do anything, she kept going. "How are you doing? Liking Austin?" A pause. "Are you seeing anyone?" "Austin is great. Work is amazing. And yes, I am seeing someone. It is going really well." The look on her face was priceless. That moment she realized the backup plan she was banking on no longer existed. "Are you happy?" She asked. Truly happy? Yes, I am. She looked down. I have thought a lot about everything, Mason. I know now that what I asked was wrong. I wish I could go back. I nodded. I appreciate you saying that. She waited, hoping for more. I hope you find what you were looking for, Vanessa. Then I turned back to Brandon and picked up my fork. She stood there for a few seconds, unsure what to do. I did not look back up. She walked away without another word. Brandon waited until she was back at her table before speaking. Unbelievable. Did you see her face? I shrugged. Yeah, whatever. He raised his glass. To your perfectly timed glow up. I am telling this story at every barbecue for the rest of my life. Knock yourself out. We finished our meal. The next day, I caught my flight back to Austin. Amanda picked me up from the airport. She hugged me tight and asked how my trip was. We went to grab dinner at our usual spot, and honestly, I have never been happier. Comment. Hey everyone, stories like this always make me stop and think. I've come to realize how important it is to hold on to our self-respect in every situation. Setting clear boundaries and standing by them is an act of real self-love. When we choose to walk away from what no longer serves us, we create space for true healing. Taking responsibility for our own peace might be hard at first, but it changes everything. You deserve to be in relationships that bring you calm and genuine respect. Learning to choose peace over drama is one of the greatest skills we can develop. Be gentle with yourself while you grow through these lessons. Keep choosing yourself with kindness and courage every day. I'm really grateful you're here sharing this journey with me. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.